So hello and welcome to Truth You Can Wake Up To. I'm Samuel William on the 5th of April 2012. So I want to talk today about the power of the name, your name. Not just a name, not the name of a hamster, but the name of you, yourself. Now, what is your name? We all assume that we know what it is because people call us by it every single day, but of course we inform them as to what our name is. Either that or we provide some kind of identification for which they derive our name. Just like normally people will call me Sam, but if I provide identification, say to an employer, they'll generally call me Samuel because that's what it says on my identification. So name, especially for authority figures, let's call it so-called authority figures, name, very, 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 very important indeed. So why is your name so important to your employer? This person has got a business, they want some work done, some labour, let's say. Why can't you just wander up, say, look, I've got a body, I've got arms, I want to just work for you. Don't worry about what my name is, worry about whether or not I can do the work. But no, they need identification, they want to see a passport or a driver's license, or they want to see your birth certificate, they want to make sure that you've got a national insurance number and all of these sort of things, this matrix that appears as soon as we just want to use our arms to do some kind of work and then maybe get reimbursed and be able to eat. But you cannot do that without interacting with the matrix. Now, I'd like to think that generally in these episodes that I've been recording, I like to think that possibly I'm talking about freedom a lot of the time. Information about various things, what our politicians are doing, what's going on the global scale, all to do with freedom. And if we have more knowledge, we can be more free. If the authorities, the powers that be, or the powers that were, whichever you like to call them, if they have information that gives them power, there is a big drive towards the surveillance society. We know already that we are filmed, photographed on CCTV, there's facial recognition and search engines that the intelligence agencies can use so that they can search through the various images that are captured throughout the town or city that we live in and trace the places and our whereabouts, where we've been, what time, who we've been mixing with. Never mind the fact that you might just be in the background of somebody's photograph that they've taken and put on Facebook. Say they're at a club or they're in a park or anything like that. You might appear in the background inadvertently because somebody's taken a picture of someone else. They've put it up on their Facebook. The facial recognition that we know is used in Facebook, also used by the things like the Metropolitan Police Intelligence Unit and also MI5. They can use our own voluntary additions to a database like Facebook to trace every place that we go. But of course you could say, if I've got nothing to hide, I've got nothing to worry about. Well, fine. Let's put a CCTV camera in your toilet bowl. Let's see what happens when you go to the toilet, because you've got nothing to hide, have you? You're not ashamed of your own toilet habits. Surely, let's take away all of your privacy. At some point, we have to say, I'm not comfortable with being filmed. But all that aside, of course, they're now bringing in laws that say, we're going to be keeping an eye on all of the websites you go to. Your internet service provider is going to keep an accurate record of every button click, every key press, all of the things, how much time you spend on each website, what you download, what you upload, what you look at, what you're interested in. We're going to keep that information so that we can study you and make a file about your psychology. Is that okay? Is that okay? You're going to have to pay for it, but is that okay? Of course, they don't ever ask our permission to do any of these things. It comes with this mysterious thing we call a social contract, where apparently, because we vote, except most of us don't vote, because we think voting is an absolute load of... We don't vote. We don't have that social contract with the government. We don't trust the government. They have proven to be liars. They take our money through force and they give it to their criminal friends. We know what happens with government. We know it never changes, no matter who comes in as a saviour like Ed Miliband could save the world. So information for the government is power. They want it, they crave it, they create a highly sophisticated scientific matrix to extract the information from the general populace. The essential embodiment of that information is, as a primary thing, your name and the location of that name. Of course, they're not asking for your name, they're asking for the name of your birth certificate. That's the thing that you hold. That's your power. That's the thing that lots of companies want to interact with that paperwork. A very, very lucrative source of business. Of course, especially for things like the courts, the government, the police, all the state-based operation and control system. Its primary method of control is not necessarily violence, although that's a big part of it. It is in fact just identification of the target. That is the thing that they must have. So my bank that I use, they haven't had my real address for years. Why would I give my bank my address? Why are they ever going to use it? You could say, oh, send statements to your house. No, just stop the statements. Why do you need a statement? If you want a statement, go to the ATM or the cash machine and have a look, or just in your mind know how much money you've got and you're going to have. Why else would they need? You think, oh, they might need to communicate something with you that is very, very important. What on earth are they going to have? They're either going to communicate with me to say, oh, all your money has suddenly disappeared and we don't know where it's gone, in which case there's not really anything I can do about that anyway. And as soon as I find out that all my money has mysteriously disappeared without trace and nobody knows why, I think I might get in contact with them. The only reason that they would want to ever get hold of me is to hassle me. Now, if any company or anything it's anybody's ringing your phone, if anybody's sending letters to your house, it's because they want to hassle you. They want to get money from you. They want to open a contract with you. There isn't really anything that operates simply on the case of pure information. Even you could say, oh, I subscribe to a magazine and therefore that company has to have my address because they send me a magazine. Well, why do magazines exist? Do they really exist to inform us? Or are they existing so that they can be entertaining and have adverts strewn throughout it? Are we not just having adverts delivered to our house? I realise that I'm ranting here, but I just think your freedom is based upon the keeping of the knowledge, which is your whereabouts, your identity, your thoughts, your feelings, your friends, your interactions, all of these things, your timetable, when you go out, when you come home, all of these sorts of things need to be held sacred because people will try and use it to control you. Now, because I've had so much backlash about the TV licensing thing and people saying, well, you're going to get taken to court, and if you don't attend court, then they charge you while you're not there. Oh, they charge you while you're not there. What does that even mean? I mean, I understand that they can do it because ladies and gentlemen, they are crazy. The people who run the control system, the judges and a lot of the high-up barristers and stuff like that, the lawyers, they've lost their minds if they are charging you while you're not there. You realise that? If they want to charge you while you're not there, I say let them have their little tea party. I say, there's monkeys in the zoo as well that are having conversations about stuff that they don't, publish in the newspapers. They're talking about the trees, and they've got stuff under their fingernails, like little dirty patches that they need to sort of pick off with another one. Why do we involve ourselves with weird, strange activity done by people that we don't know, will never see? Let them charge this fictional entity that they call me while I'm not there. Plus, how on earth, if you break something like, whatever it is, the Telecommunications Act, because you watch BBC Live because you love propaganda, say you break that legislation, how do they prosecute you? How do they get you to court? How do you go to court? You get a summons. How do they give you a summons? They send it to your address. How do they have your address? You told them your address. If they can't reach you with a summons at your address, what do? They send out a minion, an agent of the Matrix comes out in a little Vauxhall Corsa, and he will serve you a summons. How does he serve you a summons? He'll come up and say, "Excuse me, sir, are you Mr. Samuel William?" And I'll say, "Yes, that's me, you fine sir with the Vauxhall Corsa." And he'll say, "You've been served," and hand me a piece of brown paper, and inside a summons. Darn it! They've got me. Yeah. Which is why you need to be very, very, very aware of the power of your name. People are going to ask you for your name a lot. The TV licensing man, he comes to your house. What does he want to know? He wants to know your name. The man who wants to issue a summons, he's asking you if this is your name. He has to wait for you to say yes so that he can serve you with a summons. Without the name, you cannot be given a summons for court. Of course, if you've done something that breaches common law, if you've murdered someone, they don't need to summons you. They come and they drag you away by your ear holes. If you've stolen something, that's a breach of common law. They're going to come and drag you away by your ear holes. But if you haven't breached common law, and in fact been bold enough to contravene a legislative rule of society, a statute that somebody spoke, and contravene that, if you dare to do such a thing, don't worry too much, because they need to prosecute you through your paperwork, which means they need your name. They're not interested in you. They're not interested in anything, in fact, other than extracting wealth out of the private Crown copyrighted corporation called Mr. Samuel William. That's what they want to do. He's worth, or it is worth, a certain amount of money. Worth. And my consent gives them access to the wealth that is inside that Crown Copyright Corporation called my birth certificate and my name. Now, of course, they need our consent for all of this kind of stuff, which originally they kind of wrangle around. They try and pretend to you that you gave your consent when, right at the beginning of your life, when you were issued with a birth certificate. Before long, not too long from now, generations will be born with an electronic birth certificate, an electronic form of consent that's injected into their body called an RFID, radio frequency identification. from the point when any child or any thing has an RFID chip in their body, they no longer have the ability to refuse to obey. Their consent is injected into their skin. They no longer can say, I'm throwing away my identity, my interaction with the matrix. I'm no longer going to be conforming to this idea of a name, live working for cash into my hand from an employer to an employee without paying tax to a corporate, violent monopoly government. They won't be able to do that anymore, because as soon as we have the RFID chip, which tells our identity, our date of birth, our place of birth, our employment and our status, it'll also be our bank account. Anyone out there got a contactless bank card that you don't have to put into the machine anymore? You just wave it close to it. Well, why even have the card in your hand? You could have that little chip in your RFID that's already inside your hand. A cashless society. They're getting rid of cash. You can't work cash in hand. You have to pay tax. You have to pay for war. You have to pay for guns. You have to pay for the army to subdue other populations. You have to pay for the police to subdue you. If you're a citizen of this country and you voted, do you not have the right to speak to your elected representative? And if your elected representative is David Cameron, can you not just walk up to his door? Can you not walk onto Downing Street? What happens when you speak to the armed and abusive police officers on the gate? What happens if you tell them that you want to speak to David Cameron? How long before they require your name in exchange for your freedom? Because if those guys with the guns outside your elected representative's house ask for your name and you don't give it to them, what happens?
So